When young men and women make bad choices, they often end up in a place like this. Here, cut off from normal society and all its potential for positive influences, the door can slam shut on a child's future. There is another way. Reclaiming Futures with Kentucky River Community Care brings together a diverse set of community partners: judges, treatment providers, law enforcement, and families, to rescue thousands of young people caught in the downward spiral of alcohol, drugs, and crime. This new approach uses the strengths of teamwork and accountability to deliver results in cities and towns across America, like here in the mountains of Kentucky.
Southeast Kentucky is an Appalachian region, mountainous, a lot of difficulty with transportation with roads. Families are incredibly important here. They tend to live very closely.
There's just not a lot of work available. It's coal mines or minimum wage jobs.
Andrew is a kid who I work with in Wolfe County. He has been actually involved in the court system for a couple of years. Almost all of his charges have been drug related. Andrew was actually placed on probation to DJJ back in December, but I had worked with him and his mom prior to that in getting him into Cabin Creek, which is a substance abuse treatment facility.
Before he went into treatment, life was pretty rough around here. We couldn't leave money, we couldn't leave valuables, anything laying around him. He was pawning some of his own stuff, and stuff was disappearing out of his room.
There was also some concern, of course, because she does have 2 younger children in the home, about the influence that he would be having on them, and if he would try to influence them to either try to get him drugs or to use drugs with him.
He was very aggressive, very hateful, very much in denial.
I always felt like people would tell me I had a drug problem, and I'd be like, no, I don't. But, I mean, obviously I did, or I wouldn't have gotten in all the trouble I got into.
Cabin Creek is an 8-bed crisis unit that also serves substance abuse, and we have a 28-day treatment program for substance abuse here, in addition to approximately 10 days of crisis.
Cabin Creek, it helped me out a lot, I think. You know, they would just pretty much talk about all aspects of your drug problem and your family life, and like what led to you being there and what you need to do when you get out to get your life back on track.
We're trying to just work with the kids to prevent future, you know, them having to go into detention programs or prison in the future. You know, to me, like any kind of just straight out punishment like detention or prison or whatever should be the last resort, and this is just a step that we're taking to try to prevent that from happening to those kids.
Whenever I was in detention, it made me want to use drugs even more. Each time I went, my desire to use drugs just kept on getting stronger, because every time I went, everybody'd always tell me what a failure I was, and this is what my life was meant to be. Like I was just going to keep on coming back, and eventually I was going to end up in the pen somewhere. So it's like they made me believe that every time I went to detention.
I mean, I never got nothing out of detention. I mean, here, you know, you come here, you do the program, you have time to self-reflect, you know, you have time to think about your future. When you get out, what you're going to do, and you have a counselor you can talk to every day.
After I kind of sobered up and stayed away from the drugs for a week or two, you know, I realized that, I mean, like, I look back at all the money I had been spending on drugs, all the time I spent doing drugs, you know, I mean, they would ask questions about, you know, what do you like to do for fun, and I really couldn't think of anything. I mean, because I'd spent all my time with drugs, and, I mean, I just realized, you know, everything in my life is centered around it, and, I mean, that's a pretty good sign that you've got a problem, and I kind of gained perspective that I needed to do something about it, you know, get myself out of all this trouble, because it's definitely not worth losing your freedom over. I went to the detention center for like 6 days for that, and then Cabin Creek for 38. I mean, that's not that long of a time considering some people were in jail for life, but then again, you know, to only be 17, that's a long time to be away from home. I mean, it's not worth it to use drugs to lose your freedom.
You'll have kids come in who have used kind of heavily, and they'll talk about feeling really bad, feeling really down, and then all of a sudden they think clear, they think they see things differently, and they don't realize they've been in that fog. They'll tell you, I thought I was, doing right, or I thought I was thinking the way I was supposed to be thinking.
It usually takes, I would say, a couple weeks, before they completely, before they start feeling better physically, and, their mind starts functioning normally, and then, it's kind of like they see drug addiction differently.
I'd always thought, if they would just let me go home, I could, I knew I had a problem, I'd go home and fix it. But I really don't think, now that I look back, I don't think it would work. So if I go home back to the same environment, I'd be doing the same things with the same people. It kind of helped me realize some of the stuff I'd been doing.
When Andrew first came here, he had a really poor attitude about, just getting off drugs and about the program itself, I think. But then, through talking to the staff and everything here, he started to see, I think, that he really had other choices. I just seen a huge improvement in him from the time that he started to the time that it was time for his discharge day.
They taught us to communicate without the yelling, screaming. They taught me that some of my parenting methods, some of the methods I'd been using, the accusations, the suspicion, just all that was wrong.
Anytime we get in an argument or anytime we talk about something, she can stay calm now and we can work things out together, whereas before we would just end up arguing about something, yelling, screaming, and just, walk away and just basically not solve anything.
It also gave her a chance in family sessions to bring up things that at home would have been a really volatile situation, may have even ended up in, threats or violence, but they can talk about these things with kind of a neutral third party there that can kind of help the two of them communicate and work things out.
I sent some stranger into rehab, and I brought my kid home. I hadn't seen him for a long time.
Most of the families that I worked for until they got involved in the court system, got involved in treatment, had really no idea. Whether they didn't love their kid, didn't want what was best for them, didn't want to do what was best for them. They just didn't know how. And treatment and getting them involved with a program like Reclaiming Futures that works not only with the kid but with the family as well can help them know what they need to do.
The most significant impact for me, I think, has been the availability of a person that is provided by Reclaiming Futures in the courtroom. They attend court on days when I have juvenile sessions, and that they are able to provide me with some immediate feedback through an assessment tool I think that they developed and tailored to our needs that lets me know early on whether a person has a substance abuse problem and needs treatment.
Reclaiming Futures follows a proven model for helping break the cycle of alcohol, drugs, and crime for young people. When a youth has been referred to the juvenile justice system for law violations, the process begins with initial screening for potential substance abuse problems. If abuse is indicated, youth are assessed to measure the severity of their use of alcohol and other drugs, as well as individual